welcome to another edition of Cracking the Cryptic. On our Twitter account, which is @CrypticCracking, we had a request to take a look at this super Fiendish Sudoku from the Times. The person who asked the question suggested that the Snyder notation that we recommend may not be enough to crack this puzzle on its own, so I'm going to take a look and see if that's true. It can be true for the very, very tough Sudokus. Sometimes you have to go beyond Snyder notation, and we'll see if that's right here. So just a reminder of what Snyder notation is. If we look at this 3x3 box here and ask ourselves, where can a 6 go in this box? You can see we have a 6 here, and a 6 here, and a 6 here. And therefore a 6 can only go in exactly 2 positions in this 3x3 box. And when that's true, we allow ourselves to make what we call Snyder notation marks on the 6s. So only where a number can go in exactly 2 positions will we allow ourselves to do this. And some nice logic can fall out of that. It's a very efficient way of solving these puzzles. We'll see, as I say, whether it's enough here. So you can see immediately a little bit of efficiency. 4s. 4s are forced. This has to be a 4 here. Now, the work I did earlier when I made the pencil mark notations when I was focusing on the 1s, mean the moment I write this 4 in, I can instantly also write the 1 in. And it's things like that that are very, very helpful. And in fact, I've just spotted something else that I want to show you as well. So this is 5 and 6 in some order. Let's just write that in. Now let's look at this 4 here. This 4 here forces there to be a 4 in one of these 3 cells. Don't know which one, but it's got to be in one of them. And look, we have a 4 here and a 4 here as well. So I know that the 4 in this 3x3 box has to be in one of these 2 cells. So there's a 4 in one of these 3 cells and a 4 in one of these 2 cells. Now, the implication of that is that there must be a 4 in one of these 3 cells. Can't obviously be here because of this 4. Now the reason for that is, let's see what happens if I was to try and put a 4 here. You can immediately see this would be a 4 and this would be a 4 as well. So that's clearly not possible. There can't be any more 4s in columns 5 and 6 because we've already got a 4 in columns 5 or 6 here and 5 or 6 here. So there's enough 4s already in columns 5 or 6. So we can actually pencil mark those 2 squares in. And in fact we can go further because look, we have a 4 here and a 4 here. So the only place that 4s can go in this box are in those 2 positions. And therefore we actually resolve where the 4 goes in column 4 like that. So as I say, that is an example of sort of classic Snyder logic, if you like. It's quite powerful. So we can place a 9 here, and let's see if that allows us to do anything clever. 6 and 8, yes. In fact, I'm going to resolve all of this here. These 6 and the 8 has to be here. This has to be a 5, just by simple Sudoku rules. Nothing clever there. And pencil mark 5s over in these 2 positions. And certainly I'll be working hard on this box now, because the fact that we've finished, if you like, column 4 in this box means that we ought to be able to make some more pencil marks just by paying attention to what's going on elsewhere. So we can see we can place some 5s in those 2 positions. I don't know if we can go further than that. I think 2s, no. Okay, let's have a look at this square. What can go in that square? 1, 2, 7 and 8. And you can see we already have 2, 7 and 8 down here. So this has to be a 1. It's just a naked single. 3, 5 and 6 to place again, and the same thing happens here. In column 1 we've got 3, 5 and 6 to place, and we have a 3 and a 6 already in row 2. So I think this square has to be a 5, which resolves there. There must be a 5 there. We can immediately add that. So this square can be a 3 or a 6, and this square can be a 3 or a 6, but this notation method doesn't allow me to notate that, and I just have to sort of try and remember it. Place an 8 into one of those two positions. Make some pencil marks here, because again 1 can go into any of these 3 squares, and I can't therefore notate it. I need it to be 2 squares. I can use this 9 here and this 9 here though. That forces there to be 9s in one of those 2 positions, which allows us to find this double here, this 6 and 9 pair. And look, then that interacts with this 6 here, so this in fact has to be a 6, this has to be the 9. 9 has to go in one of these 2 positions. One, 2, 3 and 8 to place down here. Can nearly do something. It's interesting that neither of these cells can contain a 1, but unfortunately I can't rule out a 1 in one of those 2 positions. I can now notate 1s into those 2 positions and those 2 positions. And those have to be 1s. And now let's look at this 7 here and this 7 here. That's forcing 7s into one of these 2 positions in this box, which allows us finally to resolve this has to be a 7 now, and therefore I now can make notation on the 1s, because they can now only go in one of 2 positions exactly. You can see now the 7 here and the 7 here. I could have actually done that earlier and added that in. This has to be a 4. This has to be a 4, this has to be an 8, this has to be a 2. Again, nothing, I've not done anything clever there, just filled in what's forced off the back of what we've already found. Pencil mark 2's up here, pencil mark 2's down here. This has to be 4, 5 double in this box. Therefore this must be 2 and 8 in some combination. Same patterns recurring a lot in this puzzle. Look at the effect of the 3s, these 2 3s on this box. That's forcing 3s into one of those 2 positions, which allows us to place a 3 into this square here. Let's remove this 3 here. This square, we've got to place 1, 2, 3 and 5 in row 8 here. And you can see the 2 and the 3 here. That 1 is also affecting this square. So in fact this square has to be a 5. Oh, that's nice, because that gives us a 5 here and a 6 here. This has to be a 5 as well now, and this means this must be the 7. It means we can pencil mark 7s over there like this. This 5, 4 combination is now forced to be in that order. 4, 4, this must be a 4 now. It's all looking reasonably okay so far in terms of Snyder notation cracking this, I think. Probably famous last words, but let's see. Nice piece of logic here. Look at the effect of these 2 8s on this square. So now this forces the 8s into one of 3 positions. That's actually really important, because look, it forces the 8s in this 3 by 3 box into the same rows that the 8s are appearing in this 3 by 3 box. Now once that's true, there can't, again, same logic, we can't have any more 8s in rows 1 or 3. So let's think about where an 8 can go now in this 3 by 3 box. Well, it can only go here. That's the only place that it's valid for. So let's place that 8 there. And that's nice. That gives us this 8 and this 7. That resolves the 8 down here. And this puzzle's done now. 7, 1, 3. Sevens into those two positions. 9s into one of those two positions. This square here has to be a 6, which resolves this 6 and 8 combination. This square here is obviously forced now. That has to be a 6, I think. This has to be a 3, this has to be a 2. Three, 3, 1. Where can a 1 go? Only here now. That completely resolves this box because of the work we've done earlier using the notation. This therefore has to be a 2. This has to be a 1, this has to be a 2, this has to be a 2, this has to be an 8, this has to be an 8, and this has to be a 9, and this has to be a 7, and this has to be a 9. So, good puzzle. Just needed a couple of careful uses of Snyder notation. There were a couple of points where we needed to observe that because a number could go in one of 3 positions, and we couldn't notate it, we could still deduce an important piece of logic off the back of that. So I hope this was a useful run through. Great puzzle, thank you for recommending it. We love doing these requests, so please keep them cracking, or keep them coming. @Cryptic cracking is the Twitter handle. And yeah, if you enjoy the videos, please do subscribe. And thanks for watching. See you again next time on Cracking the Cryptic.